did you actually read what Jesus said?
Right.
You know, he's either crazy, a liar, a lunatic, or he is who he says he is, and he's Lord. And so that's the conclusions we have to come up with. You can't say things like this.
Right.
I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me, and say, well, he had good things to say. No, the guy's crazy at that point. Or it's true.
I'm Chuck Tate, and here at Fellowship of Believers, we encourage families, strengthen marriages, and edify the body of Christ.
I'm Larry Grimm. We also promote biblical doctrine in a fun and engaging way.
And I'm Sarah, and if it's Christian, we're talking about it.
This is the Mike Charleston Show. All right, guys, well, welcome to the Mike Charleston Show, and we are missing Chuck Tate today, so yeah, we're missing him, and it's just Larry and Sarah and I. So welcome, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Busy
weekend.
So yeah, we have a busy show for you. We've got a couple emails. Our consultant emailed us, and so we have to change a bunch of things here. We've got some responses to some of the videos that we've done, and we got I don't know if we have another question. A couple of emails, and we got your history segment, and Sarah's Song of the Week, and the marriage moment, and our topic for the day. But first, real quickly, we did go to Ohio. Everybody went to Ohio. Chuck and Larry did too. Chuck's still there.
Yeah,
that's where he is.
He went fishing yesterday.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Did he catch anything?
They got a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
So,
yeah, the first time.
Did he catch 153 fish?
Wasn't that many.
Okay.
No.
So we went up to the Ohio Fellowship Camp. I guess that's what they call it.
Yeah.
And got to saw a number of the listeners, watchers. I don't know, viewers. Most of them are podcasters, probably.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe not.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Meeting people. It was kind of awkward a little bit.
Yeah.
Meeting people that knew you, but you didn't know them.
A number of people came up to me. Was like, I know the voice, I know you, but you don't know me. And I was glad to meet them. So there was a number of people I got to meet, and I'm sure you got to meet too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying you're their favorite. I'm like, well, that's it. We're cutting Larry off. And
yeah, that cost me a lot to have him say that. But,
okay. Well, yeah, okay. No, that's all right. Well, anyway, so today's subject matter today, so we don't have Chuck with us, but we've been going through the book of John, the Bible Bee. Our kids are part of the Bible Bee, and we've been doing the book of John for Bible study.
Leviticus.
No, John.
It's not like Leviticus
no,
at all.
Not at all.
Actually.
But in John, it's a great book, obviously, and it's one of the better books on who Jesus is. Yeah. I mean, that is the whole thrust of the book, is who is Christ. And so we wanted to, as we're studying this, we wanted to point this out. I think most people know this, but maybe not. You know, there's 7 I ams in the book of John. And so we're going to talk about the 7 I ams.
Wasn't there also
today.
7 miracles?
I'm not so sure about that.
I
thought there was 5.
I feel like I read somewhere they had 7 I ams and 7 signs.
Yeah, 7 signs. And I don't
miracles.
know if they necessarily matched up, but that's a good question.
Yeah. I thought there were 7 miracles, but maybe not. But I'm pretty sure there are.
I mean, I got a computer right here. I could quickly say how many miracles.
I think
were in
there were
John.
at least 7, but I guess it depends on how you count things.
Yeah, because I thought that we talked about this before in Bible study, and I said, well, I think there's 8, because the last one is Jesus raising himself from the dead.
Is that a miracle?
I would think so. But.
John records only 7 miracles. Anyway.
Yeah. So
Okay.
7 miracles.
Well, so
I can't believe you doubted.
when you talk about, you say 7 I ams.
Yeah.
What do you think is so important about an I am?
The I am. So people are like, so what? There's 7 I ams. What do you mean I am? So like I said, I assume most people know this, but maybe not, and I don't want to take anything for granted. Right. And if you don't know something, you're probably going to learn something new. And if you already know this, then hey, be encouraged.
That's right. Refresher.
But way back in is it Exodus?
It is
3:14.
Yep. Exodus.
There's a whole story there about Moses, who's going to lead his people out of. God wants Moses to lead his people out. Let my people go. And Moses is arguing and being like, I can't.
Don't pick me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. And people don't like me.
And besides that, who am I going to say sent me?
Right. And so the Lord spoke to him and said, say, I am sent you. And like, I am.
I am that I am.
Right. And then he actually sends signs with him.
Yep.
Once again, this is the connection here. There's signs that followed him to prove what he had said. And so he was like, I am who I am. And so I am is a very important thing for the Jewish mind.
Right.
Like they know who the I am is. And so anyway, Moses then goes, which by the way, this is just a total side note, something I found very interesting as we were studying for this. And I don't know if it was studying for something else, but a number of the pictures of Christ in the Old Testament, especially the kings and all that, people who are deliverers.
Right.
They all were rejected the very first time they came. Like Moses was rejected the first time he went.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph was rejected by his
Right.
brothers, and they all went into exile or something with amongst the Gentiles.
Well, even David, he was the last
Rejected.
son.
Yeah.
Yep. He was
And,
rejected, and he went
yeah.
amongst the Gentiles, and
Right.
and then came back as a conquering king. So there was a number of those examples, and I thought that was kind of
that's-
interesting.
yeah,
So-
I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's not our subject, but
No, but that's good. I
yeah.
never thought about that.
That's an interesting little side note.
Okay, so
But-
we have these I am statements.
Right.
But why 7? Got
Well,
any
so
ideas?
yeah.
7. So if you're into numerology, and I'm into numerology on a scale of 1 to 10, about a 7. So, right. I like what I did there. Huh?
and that means the study of numbers, and just in
Right.
case.
Okay. Numerology is the study of numbers.
I don't want to be condescending. Or
No. But the number 7 in the Bible, most people agree, is the number of completion or
Right.
perfectness, and it's a very significant
Well,
number.
by the way, I mean the numbers in the Bible. It is amazing when you do study that,
Yes.
and you see how it all works out. It is amazing.
It is.
It's a miracle, but yeah.
Well, honestly, and people like Chuck Missler does a deep dive
Oh, yeah.
in some of these
Yeah.
numbers and the mathematical things that actually proves the Bible
Yeah.
in a very, that the Bible has to be not human made
No,
because of the structure of how it was. And anyway, one of the structures is the heptadic structure.
Easy for you to say.
Heptadic. With the D at the end, not a T. Heptadic. Right.
Right.
Okay. I was looking up this other one and kept coming up with liver issues. And I'm like, no. I want the heptadic structure. And the heptadic structure is mainly where it's a bunch of 7s and within the text. And so John purposely has 7 I ams about Christ and 7 miracles
Right.
of the
Yeah.
signs for a very, very specific reason. I'm pretty sure he did that, or at least God did that.
Oh yeah, I think so. Because the Book of John is basically who Christ was,
Right.
And
And when we actually look at the 7, it's going to be pretty clear that he's saying who Christ is. So an example of the heptadic structure is the biggest one that you can really see is in Revelation.
oh yeah,
We all,
yeah.
and if you study your Bible any length of time, you know that you have a list you don't have the list right there.
I do
Where is
have
it?
the list.
I got it.
Well, the book of Revelation, I heard recently somebody say that there were 50, just clearly where it says 7
Right.
in Revelation, but then there's probably over 2,000 if you search a little deeper and you
Right.
know, it doesn't just say 7, but when you look a little deeper, you're
Wow.
like, oh, there's actually 7 of that. There's 7 of that.
Okay,
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's some of it's hidden in there, like you were
Yeah.
saying, and some of it's pretty clear.
Right.
Like 7 bowls and the 7 churches.
7 churches,
There's
yeah.
7 spirits, 7 eyes.
Yeah.
You know, there's a number of them. You have the 7 stars, the 7 bowls of wrath, the 7 trumpets, the 7 promises to the overcomer. That's interesting. That's more of a hidden one, I'm guessing.
7 lamps.
7 lampstands,
Yeah,
7 plagues.
7 plagues, 7 mountains.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
7 kings.
yeah.
And it's so just do your own search in Revelation. There is plenty of the heptadic structure there. It's within the 777 all over the place. And so Revelation is a very interesting study in and of itself. And when you
Right.
count the actual words in Revelation, comes out to 12,000 words.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we're talking about number 7.
That's 12,000 only in the King James Bible.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
wanted to clarify that.
I understand.
All right, so back to the 7 I ams. What is the first I am
First one. Okay,
statement?
so now we're getting into the 7 I ams,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So these are all great stories. I mean, if you're reading the book of John, these are awesome stories. So we're not going to do like a deep dive in all 7. We don't have that much time.
Right.
So we're going to just briefly go over them. You should go back and reread some of them. Maybe we'll throw out a little nugget or something. I don't know. But we're not going to we could easily spend an hour on each one of these.
Right.
And we were tempted to do that, but no one's in for a 7-part series. So anyway, the first one is the bread of life.
Yeah.
That wouldn't go over very well today.
No, unfortunately, I watched a video on YouTube. It was How America Ruined Bread
Okay.
was the title.
Wow.
And basically, and you can see this, they took the wheat, stripped all the good stuff out of it, left just the flour,
Sure.
and then added stabilizers and dough enhancers and things like that to make it more shelf stable
Sure.
and softer. But bread, the wheat, when you make the whole wheat, it's actually life sustaining.
Right.
You got the whole germ, the wheat germ, and all that in it, and
It's really, really good for you.
it's been a staple of civilization since the beginning of time. So
That's why prisoners are given bread and water, right?
yeah, right. Well, and that's why I think Jesus referred to himself as the bread of life. And you see that. What did God feed the Israelites? It was some sort of bread or
manna.
manna.
Right. Manna
Yep.
from
So-
heaven. Well, and the other thing is right before this, right before he says he's the bread of life, the story is he feeds the 5,000.
Yeah.
And then he challenges them on their thinking and is like, well, you only follow me because I gave you bread.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I am the bread of life. And that's got to, like, what are you trying to say? And even he goes so far just to, if you don't eat
Right.
of my flesh
Yeah.
and drink
Drink
of my blood, you have no part of me. And so they're like, whoa,
Is
okay.
he talking about being a cannibal?
Right. What are we doing here? But he's the bread. So like you were saying, it's a sustainer. It's a basic thing that keeps
Right.
us alive. And bread. So it's food. It's sustenance. It's
Well, what I like is that he says he is the bread, not that he gives us bread.
right.
Right.
Like he did in the Old Testament,
Yeah.
gave a manna, which is great and all, but he is the bread.
He is.
So it's not just something he gives us, it's
And I
something
got to
he
tell
is.
you, there's nothing better than a hot, fresh loaf of bread coming out of the oven with some butter on it and some
Yeah.
honey. That's,
I do like some butter on. Yeah. Anyway.
or if you fry it and put some sugar on top.
Okay,
that's
well,
good.
we should probably move on to number 2 before we get too hungry.
So number 2 is the light of the world. Now this one's an interesting one. The story he comes out and is John 8:12, right?
Yep.
You want to read
It
that?
says, Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life.
Now I was reading somewhere where one of I think it was the festival of
Feast of Tabernacles.
Booths, the tabernacles. Is that the same thing?
Tabernacles.
Right, yeah.
The feast
It
of
might be the same.
I think it's the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
tabernacles, where they light this huge menorah type thing. I don't know if it's technically a menorah, but it's this candle stand. They light this thing and it lights up like basically the whole city,
Yeah.
and it's a very bright thing. And light is a very important thing to the Jews. It's important to everybody,
Right, yeah.
The light. I mean, when you're in darkness, you can't see. And the fascinating thing about this one is right after he says this, he heals a blind man.
Yeah.
So, okay, I am the light, and let me prove this. I'm going to let this guy see again because
Yeah.
he was in darkness.
Yeah.
Now he's in light. And so I like that little contrast there. Where,
yeah, that's-
right after he says this, he heals the blind man. And light is a very important thing.
Yeah.
Darkness can't overcome light, but light will overcome darkness.
Yeah, it's fun, and it doesn't take a lot of light.
Nope.
Like you go into a room that's completely dark, and you have a little bit of a light, and it's amazing how much your eyes can adjust to that little bit of light and how much you can see.
Well, you can see, even in war, they tell people don't smoke or what, because you're at night,
Yeah.
and you can see that little speck,
Yeah.
from a long ways away, and you're like, you just gave away your position,
Right.
So,
and like
yeah.
you said, you never hear of a dark room overpowering the light. The light
Right.
always overpowers the darkness.
So he is the light. Also, in the Old Testament, they were the cloud by day and the fire by night.
Right.
And I was listening to someone, and I didn't quite understand how he was getting this, but he's basically saying he's that cloud also, the cloud and the fire that lit up the night, but the cloud protected. And the next story was the woman caught in adultery, how he protected that woman from being stoned. And I thought, okay, well, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, good point.
All
Well,
right,
plus in the desert, the light at night would help keep them warm
Yes.
as well. So provide comfort, security, warmth, all
Sure.
that.
I mean, that is who he is, right? So number 3 is I am the door.
Yeah, and some say the door of the sheep.
The door of the sheep?
Yeah.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
But I am the
And-
door. That's John 10:7.
It says, Then said Jesus unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep.
Right. I am the door. So, people are like the door of like salvation. Sure, that works. That's fine. And I was listening to some guy this past week, and he was saying something about how one of the miracles was, and I'm not sure if it was right before or right after. We were trying to look that up just to confirm something. But we know this. One of the stories was the lame man, and he wasn't allowed to go into the temple.
Right.
They locked him out. They shut the door on him. And Jesus now is the door, and he's opening it up, and he healed him, and now he's able to come in to the place of worship,
Right.
synagogue, and so yeah, he is the door, and he lets things in, keeps things out, and of the sheep. So
Well, and doors, I don't know, with so far all of these, I mean, they're pretty basic. Bread is basic, light.
Right.
Door, I mean, like he's describing himself
Right.
in very simple terms. And I don't know, like for us after the flood, it's like doors are,
Yeah.
you just don't think how
we
important
didn't
a door
have doors
is.
for a long time, and
But I mean, when we flooded, we didn't have doors, and we started, every week or month or whenever we would get another door, it's like, wow, I have a door.
Yeah.
Like it makes a huge difference, and you just don't consider how important a door is until you don't have them.
Well, yeah, and doors, like with the light, doors give us a sense of security, knowing that we are blocking whatever's on the outside from
Right.
coming in.
right,
Yeah. Well, and the door for the sheep, because, if you understand how the sheep were kept in this
Right.
like pen type thing, and there was a doorway, and
shepherd would lay down.
it would actually lay down and create a
Right.
door so
Right.
nothing could come in or out to protect the sheep through the
Yeah,
night.
he was the
Wow.
barrier
Yeah.
protecting them.
Right.
Yeah.
Which obviously leads us to number 4, and that is I am the great shepherd. Now, this one I could go on and on for a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because this one has great significance. In the Old Testament, a shepherd is generally the leadership of Israel. It's a picture of the leadership of Israel, specifically a king. And where were the kings? And Jeremiah and I know specifically in Jeremiah and maybe Ezekiel, I think it was, where they talk about where the shepherds are. Where were they?
Right.
Why did
Yeah.
Babylon come in and take them away? And they blame basically the shepherds, the kings, and the kings had failed them. The leadership had failed them. And that is the exact same thing today. Look, if you are putting your trust in a man, they're going to fail you.
Right.
And everyone is going to fail you. I don't care what church you're part of. We just did one thing about the shiny, happy people. You put your faith and trust in a man to lead you, you're going to go astray.
Right.
It's just that
Yeah.
fact. But he is that great shepherd, and not only the shepherd, but a good one.
Right.
And he talked about how there's a wolf, and that there's the sheep, and that there's the good shepherd, and there's a hireling. And there is a bunch of hirelings out there. And he is not a hireling. He lays down his life for
Right.
the sheep, whereas everyone else is concerned about their own skin. And I don't care, how good you are. Eventually, you do look out for number one somewhat.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
But Jesus doesn't. He gave his life for the sheep. And so he is the good shepherd. And by saying that, he is kind of referring to himself as a king, the good king. I will not lead you astray. I will not. I will guide you and protect you because I am the good shepherd.
Well, and the sheep were dependent upon the shepherd for
Absolutely.
food, water, shelter, protection, everything. They were
Yep.
Well,
I'm sorry.
and
Go ahead.
one of the most famous passages of the Old Testament, Psalm 23,
Yes.
says, "The Lord is my
my
shepherd."
shepherd.
So it's like we know of God referring to himself as a shepherd in the Old Testament. Now Jesus comes in the New Testament and he's
Says, "I
saying,
am the shepherd."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't when Joseph was bringing his family into Egypt, he said, just you want to stay on the outside, or they're kind of rejected because they were shepherds,
Right.
and the Egyptians didn't like shepherds.
Yeah, shepherds wasn't a very sexy position,
Right,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you are living out with the sheep, and it wasn't a very safe thing. I mean, look
No.
at David. David was a shepherd,
Yeah.
and he had to kill a lion and a bear, and it was a very dangerous job.
Yeah.
But David was once again, a picture of Christ,
Right, yeah.
a king, and he was a shepherd. And where do you think he learned about all that? Being a shepherd.
Shepherd, yeah.
And but he wasn't the good shepherd. You
Well,
know,
no, but he was a picture.
Right. He was a good shepherd, but
Yeah.
not the good
They're not-
shepherd. And
yeah.
that's what they were saying that, hey, I am the good shepherd. I am the
Yeah.
good shepherd. All right. So where are we
all
at
right,
now?
so next we have number 5.
Number 5, the good one right here, the resurrection and the life, right? Not that they're not all good, but
Yeah.
in John 11:25-26.
It says, Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this?
Yeah. So in context, which is like, who's her? It was Mary, right?
Right. Yeah.
That was Lazarus' sister.
Yeah, because Lazarus had died.
Lazarus stinks.
Yeah.
And he's been dead for 4 days.
Right.
And he said, believe in me. And she actually agreed. She's like, yeah, in the
Right.
final resurrection.
Yeah, at the end of the age. Yeah.
Right. And he's like, no.
Nope. Right now.
And
Yeah.
the look on her face probably was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. What do you mean?
And so once again, another sign that what he just said, he's about to do. And so it's one thing to say, I am the resurrection. It's another thing.
To actually do it.
Yes.
Well, and that's the raising of Lazarus. That was considered the last miracle he did in the book of John. So you see a kind of a progression. He gets to the end and
Right.
says, I demonstrated I'm God, and now my final demonstration is I have power over life and death.
Yep. I'm in
Wow.
control here of the life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, hey,
And he even waited. He knew Lazarus was, because he told his disciples, he found out he was sick and he waited.
Right.
And he says, okay, it's time, because Lazarus he's trying to be kind about it. And he said he's asleep. And they're like, well, if he's asleep, that's good. He's like, no, he's dead. It's
He's
time to
dead.
go.
Yep.
Which to me, I'd be like, well, then why are we going if he's already dead? And then Mary and Martha, they get there and they kind of say,
if you were here.
yeah, what happened?
Right.
Why didn't you come heal him? But he's like, I'm going to show you something better than the healing that I could have done if I was here earlier.
Yeah, because there was a healing earlier. I don't think it was in the book of John, Jairus' daughter.
Right.
And the 3 disciples, Peter, James, and John, were there, and they saw it.
Yeah.
But to me, they're probably like, okay, she had just died. Whatever, we saw God raise him
Yeah.
from the dead. But 4 days?
4 days.
Like
And-
he is dead.
Yeah.
He is.
We don't want to open that tomb.
Right, right. But he was like, he could do this one, he could do that one. So yeah, resurrection and the life.
Yeah. So I was listening to somebody talk about this when they were talking about you have to ask yourself, why was there death in the first place?
Why was there death? Because sin entered the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
In Romans 5:12, wherefore as one man's sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for all have sinned.
Right.
So death is the result of that sin. That was the punishment on the human race. So that's why even after you get saved, you're still going to die. That's still the punishment for sin, and we still have sin. Like just because we are washed clean by the blood of Jesus Christ doesn't mean that our personal acts of sin are still attached to our physical bodies, and so we're still dying.
But that raises a good point. What gave Jesus the ability to say and to demonstrate that he is the resurrection and the life?
Because he
And-
was sinless.
Right. He overcame sin.
Right.
It wasn't because he was God, which he was, but he was also man. He
Right.
was flesh and blood just like we are.
Right.
And he was tempted just like we are, but
Right.
he overcame. So his overcoming sin gave him the ability, he earned the right to be that overcoming Savior.
All right, number 6, right?
Number 6, yep.
What do we have? Number 6.
The way, the truth, and the life.
The way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6.
Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me.
So he's just like, this is exclusive. And this is the problem. A lot of people like to say, well, Jesus was a good person.
Right, yeah.
And Jesus had some good things to say. Well, like Josh McDowell and C.S. Lewis before him, made these arguments. It's not new to us or unique to us, but like, did you actually read what Jesus said?
Right.
He's either crazy, he's demon possessed, or, he's a liar, a lunatic, or he is who he says he is, and he's Lord. And so that's the conclusions we have to come up with. You can't say things like this.
Right.
I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And no man comes unto the Father but by me, and say, well, he had good things to say. No, the guy's crazy at that point.
Yeah.
Or it's true.
Or it's true, yeah.
And so that's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you really think he was crazy? So all those nice little things he says, you do have to realize it's either true or it's not true. You can't have it in between.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. He didn't leave any middle ground.
Right.
So it's either he is who he says he is, or he's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And
He's just some
obviously,
lunatic.
you could probably guess what we believe. But yes.
But in another passage, to tie this together, he says, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you know Jesus,
And he'll set you free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is the truth.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
All right, we got one more.
And the last one.
The last one, the true vine.
The true vine, John 15:1.
Says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman.
So the vine refers back to Israel in the Old Testament on a few occasions. So you have some of those.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for God's vineyard, and the nation of Israel is his vineyard. And Psalms 80:8-9. What does that say, babe?
It says, Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. Thou preparedst room before it, and didst cause it to take deep root, and it filled the land.
Yes, in Isaiah, Israel is the vineyard. I don't know if we want to read all of what, I guess it's just this one, but now I will sing to my beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein, and he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes, wild and sour. So now we see why Sarah reads the Bible verses. And so, yeah.
Sour
But
grapes.
Israel wasn't fruitful like
No.
God
Right,
had hoped
yeah.
that it would be. And so that was kind of the problem. And so, but you had this vine that had grown up. And so he comes and says, I'm the true vine. So that
Right.
meant a lot more to them. And we're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's-
if you know anything about a vine, obviously you can just say, well, the vine, I can't do anything apart from him. That's true, because the vine, produces. But that is so true. That's what Israel was lacking. They weren't that true light. They weren't the light of the nations. They weren't free. They were enslaved many times because of going after other gods. And so he is that vine, that is the truth, the way, the life, and he is the one that will bring forth the fruit. So,
So everything we need comes from him.
Right.
Since he's
Everything
the vine.
we need.
Another picture of that is when Moses sent out the 12 spies, and they came back. 2 of them were carrying a cluster of grapes. It took 2 men to carry it. That was the promised land.
Right.
It was so fruitful, and
right.
they would have had grapes aplenty, I guess.
Yes, grapes aplenty.
Yeah.
They had big grapes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be good or not. If I had a grape this big, and I like grapes,
Yeah.
but
I think
do you
it'd
like
be good.
white or purple grapes, red grapes?
I like them both.
Yeah.
What's the other one? The long moon shape or something? I don't know, but they're good.
They have a bunch of grapes now.
Yeah.
Cotton candy grapes.
Oh, yeah. Those
We
are
have
really good.
muscadine grapes around here.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah. I
Just the
guess.
skin gets a little bitter.
Yes.
Have you ever had a sour grape? Like bit into it?
Oh,
And-
yes.
Pretty sure I have.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
rough.
I like grape leaves. Does that
Oh,
count?
yeah, stuff with
Okay.
Anyway,
where you
get
are
on the
straight.
food again. We got.
Oh, because we haven't eaten yet.
But see, that's Jesus, is the bread of life, and now he's the vine providing. So
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that John does a very good job of putting this together and who Jesus is. Now, the Jews study all the numerology
Right.
and all these things. They would catch it also. And that obviously you just need one of them. I mean, I am the
Right.
light of the world. You're like, okay, great. I'm the resurrection and the life. But he does 7 of them, which is very significant. It's complete. Jesus completes everything that we need. Everything that we need in this life is in Christ, is in Messiah.
Well, and
So-
that's the title. The I am that I am. I am everything.
Yeah.
And so the 7 fits that whole completion, the whole cycle.
Yep.
Yep, I am everything you need. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get out of this, and we'll get to the next segment.
The Mike Charleston Show.
History with Larry.
Okay, Larry. Hopefully, we won't have any problems with this history time.
Yeah,
As we know, you're not a historian.
That's right.
And we try.
I try to keep this condensed too, and it's hard to. So sometimes trying to write it, you miss some things, and
Okay.
but I'm trying. I'm trying to make it better, but
All right, so I have no idea who this
no,
is.
you probably will figure it out soon
Oh,
enough.
I will
but
figure this.
Yeah.
Do you want me to buzz in when I do? No, because
No.
people
Probably not.
listening might want to.
Yeah, they might want to guess.
No.
'Cause-
Okay.
So-
So the suspense is killing me.
Yes. I'm not probably pronounced some names wrong.
Sweet.
Of places because
You have no clue.
To
yeah, I
protect the
don't.
innocent.
Well,
Yes.
it's actually yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so our story starts a long time ago in a kingdom far away.
Is this Star Wars?
Actually, no, but it's
okay.
not that far away, and it wasn't that long ago. But the kingdom doesn't exist anymore. By the way,
Oh.
George was born in.
George, you gave his name away already?
Well, there's a lot of Georges.
There's
There's George Washington. There's
There's-
Curious George. There's
Okay.
George of the Jungle.
We just did a George Washington Carver.
See, that's right.
Well,
It's
then it's
not him.
probably not him.
Not him.
It's
Okay,
not
I'm
him,
sorry.
yeah.
I try not to interrupt.
He was born in Kroppenstedt. I probably got that wrong. A village in the Persian kingdom,
Oh.
which doesn't exist anymore. It's now Saxony Anhalt, Germany. So I don't know where that's at either. So
You don't know where Germany is?
well, I know where Germany is,
okay.
but that's about all I know. He was the son of a tax collector, and talk about a rough start. So not only that, his mother died when he was 14. So his life seemed to go from bad to worse.
Oh boy, I hope
Yeah.
you're right on this.
I looked at a couple of different sources, and they, three different sources. Anyway, so as a teenager, he developed some nasty habits.
Like picking his nose, biting his nails.
Yeah, a little worse than that.
Oh.
Lying, stealing, and drinking.
Oh.
In fact, one resource said that.
I think I might know who this is.
Yeah. Well, hold on.
Okay.
Said that he was out indulging in his vices as his mother was dying. That's how bad he got.
Wow.
And then he even stole government money from his father.
Government money. Well, that's not bad, is it?
Well, it was. Yeah. The government doesn't like stealing.
No.
Well,
no.
unless they're
Can I
the ones
whisper in
stealing it.
Sarah's ear
Yeah.
so she can...
So he did some time for his crime. So his father was able to get him into the cathedral school in Halberstadt. So
Oh, sure.
young George could enter the lucrative field of the clergy.
Oh, because it is a good business.
It was at the time. It's money in that. But after some time at that school, he left that school for the University of Hale as a divinity student. Yeah.
Yes.
So while at Hale, he was invited by one of his best friends. His best friend's named Beta, which is kind of funny, but anyway.
You sure this isn't Star Trek?
Yeah, I know. To a home Bible study.
Okay.
So here he's a divinity student. He gets invited to this home Bible study
By
where
Beta.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. While at Hale, he was invited to a small Christian Bible study, and his life was forever changed.
At Hale or Yale?
Hale,
Okay.
Halle.
Okay, because this is Germany.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so his life was changed forever, as well as thousands of children. But there'll be more on that later.
I
That's a
know.
little clue.
I know
You
now.
don't know now, huh?
Feeling better about your answer.
I am feeling better.
Okay.
But to me, it's amazing how someone can be a divinity student, and then they go to a simple Bible study, reading the Bible, and that changes their life.
Well, because
That-
divinity school, Bible college doesn't teach you.
Yeah,
much
they're not
about
really
Christ.
interested if you're saved or not.
Right.
So No, I lost my place. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
So at the Bible
Start
study,
over.
at the Bible study, George was converted, and he said, "This is a quote: I now no longer lived habitually in sin, though I was still overcome, and sometimes even by open sins, though far less frequently than before, but not without sorrow of heart. I read the scriptures, prayed often, loved the brethren, went to church from the right motives." And stood on the side of Christ, though laughed at by my fellow students. So, yeah. George wanted to be a missionary, but did not seem to fit in with the religious system of his day. Instead, he became the minister of the Chapel of Ebenezer.
Scrooge.
Yeah. For one place said 55 pounds a year, which isn't much, I guess. This was in the 1800s. Because he was born in 1805.
When you're talking about now, is this in England now? All of a sudden?
Well, he did. I'm sorry. He did move to England.
Okay, because pounds are in England.
yeah,
and
yeah.
francs are in French.
German.
And German is marks.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, marks. So
I don't know what
pounds-
Prussian would have been.
a Prussian. I think Sarah's a Prussian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not.
How do you know? You don't know what a Prussian is.
Anyway, so he's in England. But he made some at the that chapel. He was the minister, and he wanted to be the preacher of the people and not after just the money. And he did some radical changes in that church. One, he gave up his regular salary, which was unheard of at the time, a clergy not getting paid and or not getting paid much at all.
Right.
So the other thing was he did away with the practice of pew renting.
What?
Pew renting. So wealthy people could rent a pew in the church, and the more money you had, the more upfront the pew and more prominent you were. So
The Prussians, by the way, look like they're intermingled in a lot of Germany,
Right.
followed by Russia and Poland.
Yeah.
So you could be Prussian, babe.
Well, so could you.
So could I. Yeah, because we're. She's like, I'm German. In my hair, we did a 23andMe. I'm more German, and she is a lot of
Lithuanian.
Lithuanian.
yeah.
So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Anyway.
I'm sure people are
So
interested.
the practice of pew renting, it basically excluded the poor people from finding a place to sit in the church.
Oh, that goes against Scripture.
Yeah, somebody should have read the book of James
Yes,
on that one. So, the other thing he did was radical in his day was he got rid of the passing of the plate. They put a box in the back for
Oh,
donations.
he was the first one, huh?
From what I could tell, yeah.
Okay.
I
Did he
there-
put an ATM machine?
Yeah. So, by the way, they said they actually raised more money that way for the church than just passing the plate.
So he did get rich.
Yeah,
No, not really.
So, and that's good enough as a testimony of George, but that's really not what he's known for. Any of those things. What he's known for is starting orphanages.
Yeah.
So, at first, him and his wife took in some girls, and then they expanded. But the neighbors kind of got mad because the
Got
noise
big,
and stuff, and they got too many kids in their house, so they needed another building. Anyway, ended up they needed to buy land. They were able to raise the money, purchase land, and they built. In the end, it was 5 houses, orphanage houses, that housed about 2,000 boys and girls.
Oh.
They would feed them, clothe them, educate them. They were well taken care of, and he did this without ever asking for money. And there were times where they would gather to eat, knowing that he didn't have any food to feed them, and he would just pray. And somebody would knock on the door and say, "My
something for you?"
Yeah, my wagon broke, and I got
Right.
all this food, this milk. What you want it?" So stuff like that would happen to him. He was known to pray for 3 or 4 hours a day at a time. So he was quite the man of prayer. So, but to do that without ever asking people for money, people just gave him, which is incredible. So George is known as a man of prayer and faith, and after living a life of seeing God answer prayer, he traveled the world preaching God's word. He also outlived 2 wives, and he died at the age of 92.
Do you have to mention that?
Well, I don't know. It's just part of the... I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah, okay.
But
2 wives.
he and his first wife were married, I think, 40 years.
Okay.
Wow.
And then he remarried, and she was, I think, 15 years younger than him. But then he outlived her as well.
Wow.
So that's the story of
George Mueller.
Mueller. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a man of prayer and a faith. He is also one of the founding members of the Brethren Church.
The Brethren?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I never really knew what the Brethren. It sounds like really old and whatever.
Yeah. He looks like the Quaker Oats guy, kind of like on the.
Maybe he is the Quaker Oats.
But yeah, the whole story. There's a biography out. I remember reading it years ago as a kid, and it's quite an amazing story. His life is quite amazing. How just God would answer prayers for him, and just he didn't become wealthy or famous or anything like that. He just was able to travel the world and preach the gospel, preach different churches and stuff, and people would give to his cause without even asking.
Right.
So all those thousands of kids he took in and cared for and gave them a home.
Yeah. That's
So-
George Mueller.
George Mueller.
Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, we'll see what we can do about not putting that on the title subject thing and giving it away. But all right, guys. Well, this was a longer episode, and I don't even know if this is at the end or not. I forget. We do this in different order, so I don't know. So maybe we should just go on to the next segment or not. I don't know. All right. Thanks.
The Mike Charleston Show.
This is a segment where we answer your questions. Let's go!
All right, we are back, and we actually have a few emails, and then in fact we have 3 emails by one guy.
Wow.
And we're trying to make that into one email. And then Brand emailed. So we're going to read Brand's first. And babe, why don't you go ahead and read since you're a better reader, and we'll just make comments when I say, okay, all right there. Big fan, Brand.
Okay. Hello, show. Glad to see your take on the Shiny Happy People docuseries. We used to love the Duggar shows. Fascinated about the organization and methods they used to handle mass laundry and cooking for a small army. We actually adopted some of their procedures to help run our house.
Yeah, probably, huh?
Yeah, I could see that.
They were the closest thing to insights into how to literally run a large family household we could find. The Shiny documentary was like a train wreck we couldn't look away from. Of course, we knew it would have a negative slant on Christianity, but I thought since it had some actual Duggar adult children that it would be balanced. I'm a sucker, I realize it. Aside from the Duggars, most everybody else interviewed was pretty visibly radical or sick looking. I have yet to see somebody who is doing great in their spirit and family life with blue hair, tatted up, wildly unhealthy looking. Or to use a popular ATI phrase, downcast countenance.
Well, to be fair, I mean, some of those people, I did notice that too, where I'm like, man, these people don't look like they're doing well. And
Yeah.
which is sad. I mean, obviously
sad, yeah.
it's, you go through something like this and then you're coming out on the other side. And if you don't have Christ, and they didn't say they necessarily weren't Christians, but it didn't sound like it.
Right.
But okay,
Yeah,
back to his email, not our commentary.
Okay, which all of them seem to have some combination of. We went to a heavy ATI church for 8 years, met some very devoted Christian families, loving, kind, helpful, good, and faithful friends. Even so, I never liked the curriculum, couldn't quite place why.
Because it was lame. Maybe. I don't know.
The system treated their preferences as doctrine. Much of it is very loosely found in Scripture or not scriptural at all.
I think that's a big problem right there.
Yeah.
Is preferences are a big difference.
Right.
It's kind of like food allergies and
Right.
preferences. And no, but it's their preferences became the truth. And that's where you cross the line a little bit.
Yeah.
It turned the Protestant side of Christianity into something resembling the Catholic religion.
Yep.
You are spot on about them leaving the impression that Christianity did this atrocity to all of these victims, yet completely left out any reference to these victims ever walking with Christ outside of the cult or even to this day. In light of the recent Father's Day pagan holiday,
Yeah. With the winky face.
this whole cult of confusion would be exterminated with the simple formula of fathers following Christ then leading their household. Thank you for your take on the basic conference. That was like prison camp. Strange we paid to see an old video of Bill Gothard while furiously scribbling away to fill out this 100-page booklet.
That is true.
With fill in the blanks from the tape. I loved leaving that nightmare a half day early. Please keep reviewing materials like this that address different sects or ideologies we might run across in our Christian walk. Love the logo. Big fan, Brand.
Big fan, Brand. So thank you, Big Fan Brand, for that. That is, filling out is funny. The conference is so true.
Yeah.
The booklets are never ending, and but no, thank you so
But
much
I like
for
that he does say that they went to a church that had a lot of ATI people, and they did meet loving and kind.
We've met some people. Look, just because you were part of it does not mean you're a creep or you're an abuser,
Right.
Or
Yeah.
that is unfair.
Right.
You know?
A lot of people enter it with good intentions.
Right.
Because they don't really know, maybe they don't know a lot of doctrine, and they're looking for something, like I said before, wholesome
Yeah.
and family oriented.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
also unfair to say that all those people, all those victims of abuse and all that are lying, So
Yeah.
Right.
both can be true. You can have any kind of system that you have in place. There's going to be goods and bads.
Yeah. Especially
and-
with that number of people.
Yeah, it's just you present something, people believe it, are trying to live a certain way, and people fail. Like he was saying, the answer to would be like Father's Day. Like, hey, if fathers really did their job. Well, that's a big if.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fathers aren't doing their job, and yeah, that would be true. If fathers did their job, that would take care of these issues. Unfortunately, even after you get saved, people don't know what to do,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they're looking
Yeah.
for help. And if you go to these type of places and they give you answers, you're going to be more inclined to listen. And they gave you answers, and sometimes they just they took it a little too far, obviously. And we've known some people that were part of the ATI, and they understood that it was just a help and it wasn't all consuming. And so they probably had a more balanced approach to it. But if you're one that just went into it, you're probably going to be disappointed somewhat.
Yeah.
But okay, so the next email. Now, this one is from Kurt. Now, a little backstory here. That Kurt, we appreciate your sensitive spirit and all this. This is like a 5-page email. We're not going to read it all. But Larry had done a history with Larry.
With
The Spadfords.
yes.
And,
well, first of all, I mean, I appreciate him pointing some things out that I didn't know. I didn't because
Well, what you're talking about is on the YouTube channel. There's actually comments. Right.
There's some comments and about the Horatio Spafford and the It Is Well With My Soul. After his comment, I did do some further research, and yeah, he is right. He did change his belief. Spafford did.
Right.
Later in
Right,
life.
right.
Yeah, I want to clarify that.
Right.
So,
But when we're doing history things, we are kind of limited to the sources that we go to.
right, and it's hard to condense things down into a smaller format to
Right.
keep it, because I want to keep it, 10 minutes or less, something like that.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate him going through and.
Well,
and,
let me read his email here.
Okay,
so,
yeah, go
so we're
ahead.
going to read part of it, Kurt. We're not going to read everything because it's a long one. But he says, do you want to go ahead and read some of it?
Sure.
Okay, just read up there.
Okay, it says, Dear Mike Charleston Show, I wanted to comment further on your Horatio Spafford video, but I think the YouTube algorithm is stopping me.
I don't know about that, but
that I know.
I think he was kidding. But
By the way, I realized I was sounding a bit rude, so I have deleted a comment or two. I apologize.
in your yours in Christ, Kurt Glennie. Now look, anybody out there making a comment, like we have pretty thick skin.
Yeah,
like
I
we were
wasn't
just reading a comment on someone's posted on YouTube that challenged us a little bit on shiny happy people. Look, man, your opinion is your opinion.
Right.
We
I
respect
wasn't-
that. We're not offended.
No, I wasn't offended at all.
Unless you call us fat or something, then we might be a little bit, because I'm not. But we appreciate your comments,
Right,
and
yeah.
you take the time, especially Kurt here. He took the time to give us a bunch of things, and he put on here on the email my YouTube comment, and it's a pretty long comment, and we were asking for his sources, and I didn't realize it. He posted them, but it was like read more, and I forgot to hit the read more,
yeah.
and there was all the sources. So that's what he had listed, all of his sources, the bibliography, all this stuff. So he did his homework, and I appreciated that. And then my blog, he has a blog post here that if we read, and we didn't read the blog post, sorry, man, because I'm just now seeing this. But anyway, he has another email, and so go ahead
says, Dear Mike Charleston Show, it occurred to me that you are probably interested in my claim that Horatio Spafford was a heretic.
Not really, but I mean, kind of, a little bit.
I realize that this is a very serious claim that needs to be backed up by sources. So here is an overview of my sources and reasoning. So
then he said, in yours Christ, Kurgan. And so then he lists a whole bunch of things, and maybe we can post that copy that and put that on the YouTube comments. So if you care to see that, because he does seem like he does, there's mixed messages here where his daughter claims that he's stopped believing in hell.
Right.
And believing in Satan in general.
Yeah, after his email, I did do some research on it, and he did change.
Right.
And, I don't know why. I never could figure out why he changed it, but maybe it's because of the stuff he suffered in life. But even still, I mean, to say to believe there's no hell or things like that, that's not biblical. I would like to believe there's not, but that's not what the Bible teaches. So
yeah, that's right. Okay, so then he goes on here where it says.
Right there.
Yep.
This is the second time I find myself needing to apologize to you guys.
No, don't worry, man. But look, it's once is good. But okay, I get it.
Gather that you read my blog post on the show. The biometrics are telling me that Americans have been reading it. So
okay, well, how about that?
That's nice.
Maybe we have to go back and read that. It was everything he pretty much sent us, I think, which was very well researched, by the way.
Yeah, good job on that.
Anyhow, I have removed the terrible offensive line. Larry, I do not think that you're any sort of a wolf.
Now, I want to see that.
I know. I'm like, whoa.
I want to see the offensive line.
So to make up for this, I have put the following at the end of the post. So then he puts what he put at the end of his post.
Okay.
So you want me to keep going?
Sure.
As I was reading through this, I realized that I was sounding a tiny bit mean. One phrase in particular I have deleted. Larry, I apologize. I saw the next installments of History with Larry on George Washington Carver. I liked it a lot. I like the Who Am I format, particularly as it will lead to people reading history.
Yep.
Perhaps the subject of the video could be removed from the title, as people like me like to play along at home. I wish Larry good luck, and I look forward to future editions.
Yeah, so, and he says, you should watch the show now. There's a link. And then he says, go on, watch it. Why are you still reading this? Nothing to see here. Still here. So he's just being funny.
Yeah.
And
well, I get it too. You get caught up, and plus, trying to write something, you want to condense it, and so it may not come across exactly the way you intended it or whatever. But
hey, I've had to retract some words.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't offended at all.
We do a show. So. I can delete mine.
Yeah.
His suggestion though. So this was an interesting thing though, and we might have to figure out how to do this. Is the Who Am I format. I wasn't realizing, we didn't really talk about how you were going to do this, but you do this in a way that you reveal who it is at the end.
Yeah, I try. I mean,
I get it, and I like that, but we do like for YouTube. Now, if you're listening to the podcast, you don't get that. So you're listening and you're like, I wonder who this is. So, but if you are on YouTube, like a lot of people are, you click on it, it says History Time with Larry, and then it has the name of the person or a picture of it. But maybe we could do it where we just have a little something about that person's life. This person had 500 things to do with peanuts. Now, most people would probably know that.
Yeah.
But,
Actually,
give them something to think about.
300, but
300, whatever, man. I give them 500. So, all right. Well, that's the emails. If you please email us, we like to incorporate people. We were telling people at the camp that unfortunately this is a one-way conversation most of the time, and I don't get to hear them. But we would like to hear people commenting back.
And I like to say thanks to Kurt. I mean, because it did spur me to do a little more research.
We're not perfect here, and so
I wasn't offended.
You got a good point. We'll own it, and we'll do some more research. And so we do appreciate, man. You put the time and effort. We'll read it.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, thanks a lot.
Hey, if you have a question you want us to answer on the show, please just email us at talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. That's talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. Music with Sarah.
What song do you like?
All right, babe. This is your song of the week.
It is. And this week I had planned to do an older song. I thought I guess all the ones we've done so far have been more recent songs.
Sure.
So I was going to go back in the Wayback Machine.
You were, but
But
just couldn't get this out of your head.
after going on the trip that we just got off of, and I've heard this song probably, 10 or 15 times in the last week, and I just can't get it out of my head. And I said, well, with our topic for today, it seemed very appropriate. So I went with it. And this song is called Abide.
It's called Abide. Now, this particular version, it's Shane and Shane's Worship Initiative.
Yes,
It's
Shane
on-
and Shane featuring Aaron Williams and Dwell Songs. I don't know if that's a group or a person.
Right, I think they actually wrote it. It's hard to tell who wrote it, but Dwell Songs, I don't know what that is. I'm probably showing my age here. I just can't keep track of all these new people. But we like the Shane and Shane version of on the Worship Initiative. I don't know if I've ever heard the other version.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard any others, but this one's really good, so you should go check it out. But it has one line in there that is repeated again and again and again.
Oh, yeah, people love that, right?
And, well, yeah, probably not, but the line is, I depend on you.
Right.
And at the end, it actually they keep singing that for a little bit.
That's
and then
what
it has
we
a
do
pretty
these days.
cello part. And
Right.
anyway, but I think that is something that I wish most people understood and believed. And I feel like so often we don't. And
Depending on him.
depending on him. And so, I mean, it just starts with what do we depend on him for? And it starts with for my waking breath. I mean, just getting up in the morning and having life and a new day, we're dependent on God. Like, we can't make that happen. It's
Right.
like he gives us life for our daily bread. And that's one of the I ams that we talked about today was he's the bread of life. Like, everything we need to sustain life, we have in him. And then for the sun to rise, without the sun, there is no life.
No, I like the sun. You know me. I'm a sunny guy, so.
It's a little hot these days, but
It is, but I'd rather the sun than not.
I agree. And I mean, just without it, just to think that there could be no life at all, and yet we have no control over it. So,
Right.
and anyway, so and then when you get to the chorus, it starts with "You're the way, the truth, and the life." Again, one of the I am statements
Right.
that we talked about today. And another thing that we depend on him for, like he's the source of everything that we have, everything that we need, and the well that never runs dry.
Right.
And
Kind of like the woman at the well.
the woman at the well, and
Right.
reading John most every day with the girls, we're reading that story and just thinking that, he came to give us that living water that when we drink of it, we would never thirst again. And so,
And I am the branch, and you are divine.
again, one of the
Right.
7 I ams that we talked about. And I know there's a line in there that I feel like sometimes maybe you weren't so sure about.
What's that? The next one?
Teach me to abide.
Right, because I think theologically we abide in him. It tells us to abide in him, and he abides in us.
Right.
But, the abiding, can we learn to abide, or we just abide,
Yeah.
And I get what they're trying to say, draw me close. They want to abide in him, but it's not you don't keep going in and out. You abide.
Right,
And-
but it does say if you abide. So to me, it makes it seem like maybe could there be a way not to?
Well, you either do or you don't. But yeah,
I mean, whatever.
I'm not gonna. It's the last line of the chorus, and it's not that big of a deal to me.
I guess it
it's
makes
a song.
I guess it makes me think like maybe more teach me what it means to abide. Like
Right.
what does that mean? And like a branch isn't trying to do anything like you say. It just is there and it's part, and because it's connected to the vine, it has everything that it needs to sustain life and to bear fruit and to do all these things. So it's not trying to do anything.
Nope.
It just happens to be. But in all the study, like for the 7 I ams, and I was listening to somebody talk about abide, and they were saying that abide means to remain or to stay, which,
Right.
like you say, you're just there.
Right.
So, but then he said another definition he heard was refusing to depart, which, maybe is however accurate that was, but I kind of liked that. And then he had another one that was inward, enduring, personal communion. And I
Whoa,
just thought, wow,
okay.
that's a loaded thought right there. But, I don't know. I love the idea of abiding. And yes, it's not something we try to do. It's something that we just understand that we do abide. And not only do we just abide, but it's like he is the husbandman. or the vine dresser or
Right.
the whatever you want to call it. And it's like, if my tomato plants out there aren't producing fruit, it's not the branch's fault.
No.
It's not even the vine's fault. It's like it's the gardener, the one who has to go and make sure that everything is as it's supposed to be.
And we
So
have sure made many failures in that regard.
we have.
But yes, but God does not. So, but yeah, so that is the song "Abide" by Shane and Shane, Aaron Williams, the Dwell songs. I don't know which one actually wrote it, but it's the Shane and Shane worship initiative that we like that
Yeah.
version.
Yep.
So that is
Great
Sarah's song of the week.
The Mike Charleston Show.
Marriage.
All right, babe, this is the Marriage Minute, I guess, moment, whatever you want to call it. We're covering your book. What's the title of your book?
You can run in flip-flops, but is that the best way?
Yeah, and we were just recently at the camp in Ohio, and it was funny because that Saturday was actually National Flip Flop Day, so we passed out a number of your books. All the books that we had. We didn't bring that many. And so hopefully people out there are enjoying it, but it was funny because it was National Flip Flop Day. But anyway, what chapter are we on today?
So this one's called To the Suffering Women.
To the Suffering, is this a personal testimony? And no.
No, not exactly. But I feel like in life, suffering touches everybody at some
It
point,
does, right.
and in different degrees. I mean, we went through, like I talked about in the chapter, I talked about us going through the flood.
Going through the
And
flood.
we
That
saw
sounds like a song, right? We've gone through the flood. Did we go through the fire?
Well,
No. Well, the house was
had
part
a
of the
little fire, but
uh,
anyway. But I mean, when we went through the flood, we did see a lot of suffering, and there were people that lost a lot. We lost a lot,
Right.
And but it's like, how do you respond to pain? How do you respond to loss? How do you respond to the hard times?
Yeah, I mean, we've lost. How would you say? We had miscarriages and things that we had to, babies that we had to birth, and they obviously didn't make it. And there's pain, there's loss, there's suffering. This world is full of suffering. One of the reasons why my grandmother never got saved was because how could a God allow suffering in this world? And she could never understand that sin was the issue. And anyway, that was, so yeah, you're right. Suffering touches everyone.
It does. And I mean, the Bible.
And unfortunately, in marriage and stuff, men like to, not like to, but usually are the cause for a lot of suffering.
Yeah, they are. And
Hey, wait, you're not supposed to agree
Oh,
with
okay. I mean, out there, some people.
Right.
No, but I feel like, that's kind of why I wrote this chapter is a lot of women point to their husbands for the cause of their suffering,
Right.
and they feel like it's unfair. They feel like, it's just too much for them to go through. And, the Bible does tell us that we're all going to suffer in this world. You'll have
Right.
tribulation, you'll have suffering, and suffering actually is given to us to produce something in us.
Right.
And if we let it, instead of kicking and screaming and, complaining about it. And so, I mean, suffering is terrible, and it's terrible for wives out there whose husbands are, causing them to suffer.
Right. And specifically, I think in this book, that's what you're referring to somewhat.
Right.
Is not just suffering in general, even though that is part of it.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that you can't control, and that is how a husband is treating you.
Right.
Or maybe other friends that are really close to you, and some of those are out of your control. But what can you do to handle it?
Yeah.
You can handle what you can handle, and obviously the Lord is with us and brings us through these times. And there's a few reasons. We'll get back to your book in just a second, but there's a few reasons why God will maybe allow suffering. One is maybe to discipline, and the other one is to build character and to prove our faith, is to refine our faith. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, and
Not to steal your show.
no, it's all good. But I guess my thought in writing this chapter was that so many women especially seem to be very spiritually minded,
Sure.
and they think of themselves as more spiritual, and then they can't handle that their husbands are treating them wrongly in whatever way, and they just can't handle the suffering. So they go and complain to other people, and many of them end up leaving
Right.
and feel justified in their leaving because of all the pain and turmoil that their husbands have put them through. And especially for Christian women, I feel like we're going to face things that are difficult, and it's a shame if it's your Christian husband that maybe could be putting you through that. But whatever the case, we go through things, but we do have Christ. And so I feel like, Christian women, they'll be quick to say, oh, I would die for my faith. And I would, I'd give my life for the sake of the gospel. And I would, I'd go through torture. I'd go through all these things. And we say that, but yet we're not willing to put up with a husband who treats us the way that he does, and I just feel like, okay, so how is it that, you'd be willing to go give your life and, if God called you in the mission field, oh, I'd do that and I'd live in whatever kind of state. But then when your husband doesn't come home and say, oh, wow, you made a wonderful supper and you look beautiful today, then, we're not willing to deal with that.
I'm not loved and, and I'm justified in being angry. And that's not the right attitude, right? Obviously. Yeah. And so, I doubt these women or men in general that complain can go through some of these things of true tribulation. Like some of the things that we hear women complain about are totally first world problems. I mean, we're just like, what are you talking about? Give me a break. There's people out there getting their brains beat in, and there's people who are being abused in terrible ways, especially outside of America. I'm not saying that there's not inside of America. There's abuse everywhere, but there are people who are actually being persecuted for their faith, and you can't even go through a little bit of suffering for this for God, because you made a commitment, a vow to someone, and you're searching your scriptures to get out. You're going to do the same thing when persecution comes. You're going to justify why you've compromised your faith, and because you don't like pain, and none of us like pain. I mean, come on. But you can say all those things about, I'm going to die for the gospel. I'm going to, when persecution comes, I will do this. Well, you're not practicing very well.
No.
And look, I get it. There is a time where a guy may be mistreating you in a very terrible way. And there's time to get help for that. And you may need to get people involved, and you may need to get the authorities involved. But man, do we understand the power of Christ, and that Christ can be with us? Do we truly understand what it means to have Christ with us, and that even when things don't go our way, and I think that's the biggest problem, it's not going our way. We were very selfish in that, and I don't think women are the only ones to deal with this, but when it's not going our way, how do we deal with it? And we're to be Christ-like, and Christ didn't give up. He didn't quit when people spit in his face, ripped his beard out, and beat him and hung him on a cross. He didn't quit. And he could have. He could have had the angels come down and take him. And he could have had a good reason, my goodness. But he suffered it for us. And that is our example as men specifically. But even women, they can have the example of Christ that, hey, we're gonna do the right thing. And if that means honor and obey our husbands, even when they don't do things the right way. Now, if they're doing things criminally, that's maybe a different story. But, come on, man. Some ladies just are really looking for excuses. But
pretty much. Yep. I'm going to start preaching now. Huh?
Yeah, I know.
So pretty much that's the gist of the chapter. Is, where's your faith? Where's your hope? And if it's in Christ, then
is God big enough?
Yeah.
Right. Is God big enough? Be amazed at what God can do. And you don't know the end of the story. Right now, you may be going through a hard time, but you don't know 5 years from now where God's going to bring you and your husband, or you and a friend that you're struggling with right now, or a church, or, God. We heard someone one time, he was a comedian, but he had a message, and he's like, in 24 hours, things can change, and you just don't know when that could happen. And it is amazing. When God's involved, things can change. So anyway, if you want to go pick up a book, we'll put the link up here. It's on Amazon. Just let us know. You can follow along and read the book, and go help Sarah out, man.
Hey, this is Joshua Charleston, the producer of The Mike Charleston Show. Thank you for listening to the show. If you want to follow us, we're on Facebook at Mike Charleston Show and Instagram at _Mike Charleston Show. Please support us on Patreon for exclusive content. This episode is over, but if you want more, check out the website at fellowshipofbelievers.org for more information. The Mike Charleston Show has been brought to you by Fellowship of Believers.